So this is going to be the worst case, like the most gruesome case we have ever had on this channel. And I just want to give you this disclaimer: if you're having a hard day, if you're having an emotionally draining day, then you should probably watch another video. I mean, I would love to get the views, but I prefer you staying mentally stable, because this was so emotionally draining even for me to cover. So yeah, it's just that bad. So when I did the Hello Kitty murder, I was like, okay, this was bad, but now I've seen bad. So I have been thinking about this case for a while, but every time I just go to research it, it's like it just shocks, and I'm unable to do a proper research and gather all the information that I'm capable or I feel confident enough to come and share with you guys, until the case was requested by Beautifully Broken, and she just said a Japanese girl, and I knew this was this was a case she was talking about, because it's actually a pretty famous case at this point, and you're gonna find out why during the video. With that said, Beautifully Broken, this one's for you. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a really good day. I'm G, and I do true crime videos from Mondays to Fridays and do something fun for the weekend. And the next Monday we're back at it. So if you like that kind of stuff, make sure you like and subscribe. Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for watching the videos and liking. It really helps with the algorithm, but it just gives me a lot more confidence to be able to make more videos. I don't know if you guys understand, but yeah. So JUNKO FURUTA, I think that's how her name is pronounced, so I'm just going to call her JUNKO throughout the video. So JUNKO was a gorgeous young lady. She looked like this, a pretty young girl, and she was a student. The cool thing about her being pretty was that she had the beauty and the brains, because she was reported to be doing really well at school, and she did not really indulge in what her classmates and her friends were really into: drugs, drinking and smoking and stuff like that. She was just really studious girl. I mean, her parents should have been proud that they had raised a really good kid. That's what she was. Despite not being involved in all the craziness of her classmates, she was actually really popular at school for being pretty and for being super smart. So she was somewhat popular in her school. Now, the worst thing that I would say happened to her, like, I'm just gonna say it like it is, the worst nightmare was that this guy, who was just an absolute, who is probably still alive, who is an absolute bully, and he was an ass. He had a crush on her. He developed a crush on her, and known for being like, just known for who he is in school, being a bully, having connections to the Yakuza, which is like a crime syndicate in Japan. Yeah, having those type of connections. He did what he could do, probably shot his shot, and she was like, nah, I'm not interested. So she turned him down, and it was like, did that just happen? No girl has the, those type of kids, no girl has the right to turn them down. And that was where his hatred for JUNKO probably stemmed up from. So Hiroshi had a tiny little gang for himself, made up of him and 3 friends. The friends were Shinjin Minato, Hiroshi Miyano himself, Joe Ogura, and Yasushi Watanabe. I know I just blew all of those up. So Hiroshi and his 3 little friends were somewhat little thugs around the wherever they lived, because at that time they were already known to be like people who are fond of gang raping girls, just try to kidnap girls, gang rape them and let them go. But they had not done anything as horrible as they did to Furuta at this point. Now, in November of 1998, at around 8:30 p.m., JUNKO was just coming back from work, and suddenly this little gang of guys were just hovering around and were doing what they normally do, trying to look for girls that they can easily prey on. But that was what the group of friends were doing that day after school, while Junko had just finished from working wherever she was working at that time. So she was going home on a bike, and this is the plan the boys came up with. So since Hiroshi was already known by Ferunto, he was a familiar face, and it would probably not work. So he sent his friend. This is probably something that they did a lot. This is something that they probably did a lot. He sent his friend Minato, because like she literally just passed by and they just laid eyes on her and were able to come up with such a really good plan on such short notice. And this was like a few days after she had rejected him. So Hiroshi sent his friend Minato. Minato went and was acting like the bully. He kicked her off her bike, like hit the spokes of the bike, which made her trip and fall, and was just mean to her. And this is where Hiroshi came out and was like, hey, why are you being such an ass? Like fending off a bully from disturbing a young girl. And at that point she's like, oh, you're so nice. This is her classmate. She was probably a little bit more relaxed around him and was like, okay, thank you. And then he was still hanging around. So he had driven Minato, his friend, away from her, and she was still like getting herself ready to leave. And then he was being a nice good Samaritan. He offered to take her home, like, okay, let me walk with you in case he comes back or stuff like that. And she, at this point, she's just a kid and she's probably like, okay, maybe they might try to follow. And it's already about 8:30 p.m., which makes sense that okay, it would be nice to have some company. And they just started walking, and somehow they ended up at an abandoned building. And I would just imagine like he probably just made up some stupid lame excuses, because it's not like she was abducted in a car. So it's just a teenager's mind who is like, okay, trusting of someone who seems to be a familiar face, someone she knows at school and stuff like that. So he probably was like, oh, I need to go this way, or I know a shorter road or something like that. But he ended up taking her to an abandoned warehouse, and that was the point where she realized, oh, this is really not going, she's really not going home that day. And he started bringing up his connections to the Yakuza and was like, hey, you have to do everything that I'm asking you to do, else you wouldn't be living here alive. I'll get people to kill you, kill even your family members. Because he managed to like get a hold of her purse and her address was on it. So he managed to have that type of an upper hand to scare her with those words. And then he ended up raping her at that abandoned warehouse, I think twice, and then taking her to meet to another place where he and his friends would probably normally hang out, or where they usually go and hang out and meet up to probably rape girls or stuff like that. And that is when he brought her to the rest of his friends, and she realized that she had just been grouped, or she had just been abducted. And then they each took their turn in raping her. Now, they had done all of these really horrible things, and this was just the start of her nightmare. Because at the end of that, they ended up taking her and forcing her, asking her to pretend like she was his girlfriend, and taking her passing through Hiroshi's parents' house. Like, they actually took her into the house and went with her to a room there. So the parents were just thinking, okay, this girl is their son's girlfriend and stuff like that. So she was forced to act like a girlfriend to just bring up a smooth appearance in front of the parents for like the first few days. However, given that, like, does the girl not have a house? Does she not have a mom who is going to worry about her? The parents, because she stayed in that house, that is where she's going to be held captive for 44 extra days, like more than a month. Yeah, that was her life. As Junko ended up not showing up to her house, her parents ended up calling the police, and this is where the police start looking for her. They're like, what's wrong with her? But the boys did not want to be interrupted. They wanted to be left in peace to do the crazy things they're going to do to her. So they used the home address that they had found in her purse, and were like, hey, I have connections, the conversation, I have connections, your family, I know where your family lives, call them and tell them to stop the search, that you are with a friend, you just need some time to think, and you are very happy with your friend, so just call them and tell them. So that's exactly what she did. A teenager, she's already pretty scared. I mean, the guy's parents were not part of the yakuza, that's what it seems, because they were scared of it. So he was probably just some low level guy that was just recruited and was using that as the everything that he got. So Junko calls her family, and she's like, hey, she just ran away from home and she's with some friends, but she's fine, they don't need to call the police to look for her, she's fine, and she'll be fine, and she'll come back when she wants to, just stuff like that. And the parents, she had to be convincing enough, because her parents and her family's lives depended on that. So she tried to convince them, and it worked. So the police stopped looking for her. Now Junko lives in the house of Hiroshi, whose parents also live in the same house, but because the parents are also scared of the same crime syndicate, they cannot really report her. Plus, Junko was forced to be girlfriend when the parents were around, but at some point, like, it was already up, like the parents knew shit was going on and they did nothing, and they, because of their fear, they did nothing, and the guys already knew, oh, these guys are not going to do anything, so it just continued happening. So for the next 44 days, Junko, these are the things the boys did to her. I'm gonna explain some details, so if you can't handle it, this is a good time to run. So it was said that Junko was raped over 400 times, and not just by the 4 boys that kidnapped her. So they decided to invite their friends over. They would invite their friends to come over, rape her, encourage them to rape her, hit her. They did not just rape her, they were always constantly hitting her. Like, whenever they're pissed, that's where they go to hurt someone. When you're mad and you just want to punch the wall. Yeah, Junko was their sex slave and punching back for the rest of her life, for the rest of the few days she had to live. So while they raped her, they are going to insert all type of things into her body. They'll insert iron bars, they insert scissors, they'll insert all sort of foreign objects into her vagina, and they inserted fireworks into every hole she had on her body. I'm talking her mouth, her ears, her vagina, even her anus, and they will insert fireworks there and light it up just to see what happens. And she had to live through that. I even read at some point that a light bulb that was hot, probably has been lit, and it's hot, was inserted into her vagina and left there until the bulb just exploded. And you can tell her internal organs were damaged, like severely damaged. The beating and torture went on for so long that there were times when there was a time during the capture where she was unable to urinate and unable to use the bathroom because of what had happened to her. Now Junko barely ate. They would feed her sometimes, but sometimes when they're not doing what they want to do to her, they are going to force her to touch herself. They're going to make her masturbate. They're going to make her eat feces, like her own actual excretions, that make her drink her urine, make her eat her excretions, and make her eat live cockroaches so they can watch and have fun. At some point, they needed a punching bag, so they tied her up, hung her to the ceiling, and just punched her while she was very much still alive. While all of this was going on, one of the guys, because the guys invited their friends over to come and rape her as well, one of the guys whom they invited could not stomach what he saw happen to her. So he went back, and when he went back, he obviously played it cool around the guys, but when he went home, he told his brother about it, because it said that, I read somewhere that more than 100 people knew where she was and what was going on with her, probably mostly boys and his friends that have probably taken part in the rape, or are just too scared of the Yakuza, as this guy, Hiroshi, was part of it. So that's how no one just knew. So this guy went home, told his elder brother about it, and the brother ended up telling his parents. Now his parents heard about that and called the police to, hey, go to this house and check out this is happening. However, when the police arrived there, they met, guess who? His parents. So he rushed his parents. I already told you, they are already scared of the police, and they played it so cool. They were like, hey, no one lives here. There is no girl here being held against her will. What are you talking about? And the crazy part is, the police did not check inside because they were like, hey, no one lives here. You can even come and check. Come and see. There's no one. With that type of confidence, the police had like, oh, okay, maybe there's actually no one living here. So that's the first instance that the police missed to save her life. During all of this torture, and I have just started, during all of this torture, it was said that Junko had become so beaten, so battered, that she took about an hour to crawl to downstairs to the bathroom where she can use the bathroom. Now, Junko ended up being able to sneak and was able to call the police at some point, but before she could say a word, the boys caught her, and then she went through another set of hell. So the police, it was obviously dropped, and the police tried to call again. However, they were like, oh no, it was just a mistake, relax, there was nothing going on, it's probably a mistake, which makes sense. So the police just let it go. Now, Junko, for disobeying them and trying to escape, the boys unleashed another level of hell. They burnt her so bad. They burnt her legs, they threw lighter fluid on her and just burnt her a lot. And she would still continue to live after this. I don't know how. So part of the beatings that they did, they would hit her, they would like let her lie down and throw a dumbbell on her. They would hit her with an iron rod and stuff like that. As part of her punishment for trying to call the police to save herself, she was also sent to sleep outside. And we're talking about November. Yes. So it was really, really cold. Like the temperatures could go right into the minus, and she was really cold, and that's why she was forced to sleep without a blanket. So all of this going on, Junko had begged them several times that, okay, if you guys don't plan on letting me go, can you just kill me? But that was not an option. They just really wanted to see her suffering. And at some point, like, they have inserted all sorts of things into her. Her body has been destroyed, her internal organs are destroyed. A report even says her kidneys had stopped working properly because of all the dumbbells and heavy stuff that they were making her lie on her back, and they're just making it fall on top of her and be like, wow, that's so fun. Well, Junko was no longer attractive enough to be raped. So these guys went out and decided to find another girl, just did the normal gang raping, but they let her go, and that was just another regular after school activity for them. That was just something that they did. Yeah. So this was aside from Junko, and they decided not to keep her like they had kept Junko. And now this raped girl became a problem for them later on. Now on the 4th of January 1989, so they kidnapped Junko at about the end of November of 1988. She had lived through Christmas, and on the 4th of January, the guys went out and played a game of mancho, something like that. They played this game and they ended up losing. So one of them was really pissed, and obviously he needed something to hit and punch and, I don't know, take out his frustration and anger on. And Junko was the best available place to go and have all of that frustration taken out. So they went there, and all guys just beat her so very bad. They threw lighter fluid on her body, on her legs, her stomach. They had burnt her eyelids. I told you guys they had burnt her eyelids, burnt her with candle wax, with cigarettes and all the stuff. This time they just threw the lighter fluid on her legs, threw it on her stomach and parts of her face, and then they set it on fire. Junko was so burnt, and then she started getting a seizure, and they were like, oh, you're playing with us, she's going to get out of it, but they just kept burning. So at some point her body was not her body was just numb to what was happening, like no more screaming and going crazy. She was just numb. And they had no idea, but she was actually dying. So they had done that and everything was done. Junko was still alive, but like 7 hours after the last torture and burning, she finally gave up. She just gave up, and that is how Junko Furunta died. Now the kids are they even kids anymore? Now these monsters had a body on their hands and they did not know how to deal with the mother. So they stuffed Junko, they wrapped her with a cloth, put her in a 50-gallon drum, and then they just poured wet concrete on her. And I don't know, I'll try to find a picture. They poured wet concrete on her. Like there are some pictures online, but you guys can go and check it out. It's just hell. So yeah, they poured hot concrete, wet concrete on her, and that was how they sealed the body, and then they buried her. So that was the wrap of that, what they did to Junko. 2 weeks after this, they get arrested. This is just Hiroshi and another guy, and one of the guys who raped Junko. But you guys remember the rape we talked about, that they just went out from their kidnapping business to just go and gang rape and come back? Yes, that was the rape charge that these two guys got arrested for. However, the police were also trying to investigate another case. Like they had no idea that Junko was even dead. The police were trying to investigate another double murder that happened somewhat differently from everything that we have talked about. And during their investigation, during their questioning for this rape that they just did, the police happened to mention that murder. And at this point, Hiroshi is thinking, oh my gosh, murder, they just murdered someone. Okay, maybe because the two boys were interviewed, they were being interrogated in separate rooms. So Hiroshi felt like the other guy who had been arrested had told the police every and anything concerning the murder of Furunta. So he decides to come clean and starts telling the police everything that they had done to her. And he even takes the police to where her body was buried. And that is when Junko's parents are finding out that their pretty little girl had just gone. Yeah. Okay. Like, I have no idea how those parents felt, especially knowing the torture their baby girl had to go through after raising her so right in all the ways, all what the in just all what the words can say right. I have no idea how they felt. So these criminals get arrested for the murder and they get charged. So at this point, the police have all four boys and they're arrested for this, but they decided to take a plea bargain, and so they don't get arrested. They don't get sentenced for murder. They just get sentenced for like causing bodily harm that resulted in murder. So it's like a lesser sentence for them. And when they first trialed their case, they really got like some left-handed. This is so light. Based off of the torture that they did, I feel like their sentences were just nothing. So yeah, the Hiroshi, the gang leader, got a sentence of 17 years, and the rest of the other guys got a sentence of between 4 to 6 years, 4 to 7 years, they're about. And it's such a sentence. The boys were like, oh my gosh, this is just too much. How can we live this long? What we did wasn't even that crazy in their minds. So what they did wasn't that bad. So they felt like this sentence was just too much. They're overrating it, and so they decided to appeal the case. And then it was looked over, and then the judges were like, okay, you guys actually just got something less. So Hiroshi's sentence was at 17 years, moved up a little to 20 years, and the other guys moved up to between 5 and 9 years. That's what they first had, between 4 and 6 years. Now they were moved up to 5 and 9 years. And then Hiroshi's parents, because he was like the king of all of this going on, his parents were ordered to pay a good chunk of money to Junko's family, which is obviously going to help. Even though it wouldn't heal the wound, it would help. So his parents ended up paying a little over $400,000. If you're talking about, if you're converting it to US dollars, a little over $400,000 to the parents of Furunto, and the other guys were just let to go scot-free. And actually the parents had to sell their home to be able to get that. If I was the judge, I'll have each of those parents, because the kids are serving time, I mean they should all be serving life, but I'll have each of those parents, okay, this is just me talking guys, this is not part of the case, please. I'll have each of those parents work and keep half of their salary to that girl's family, like, so they would have a reminder that your son did this. And this is just horrible for the parents, but yeah, it's just something that I think, because all of this happened for such a long period of time, and someone could have done something that might have saved this little girl's life. So that's what happened to the guys. Later on, they are all out of prison, and they ended up changing their names and getting some different names. I didn't tell you guys this, but when the case just started, the guys, they were minors. I said they were teenagers, all of them, including Junko. They were just teenagers, in between 16 and 17. They were just minors, so their names were sealed. Even the pictures that you have of them, their eyes are like closed and stuff like that. Some sources even call them by boys A, B, or C. But there was a magazine that said, if you're able to commit this type of crime, your human right has been taken out of you, and you don't deserve that type of, you don't deserve that respect. So it leaked, that the newspaper leaked their names, and which are the names we have used in this video. So these guys ended up living and changing their name, especially the last one, I think Joe. He was just like a piece of actual shit. And some of the guys have left the prison but haven't really been able to have a job since then. They've just been living off their parents' money, I would say. And one of them is just an actual waste of space. I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know why I'm calling this, but this case just hit me so hard, and I just got emotionally involved. And it's so annoying to feel that, to think that there's nothing that this girl could have done different to have a different outcome from this. Like, she was just being a normal girl. So one of these guys, I actually read the last post on him, one of the killers for Junko. He actually got married. I don't know who married such a monster, but yeah, he was arrested again for attempted murder, and that was because he beat some guy that he suspected was his wife was cheating on him with. He dragged this guy from a bar, stuffed him in the back of his car, drove the guy to his parents' restaurant, and beat the guy there for hours. It was attempted murder. That was the reason why he was arrested, and he was actually bragging about it, like, hey, I did this before and I sure can do it again. So yeah, that is just the life they ended up living. What do you guys think in the comments? This case was draining. I would say the case was really draining, which was why I've been avoiding this. I probably would need to recover with other cases, maybe something like just cover the story. Not abduction cases are just the torture that people get to live through. Like, why do they have to live through that? It's just horrible. So that was the case of JUNKO FURUTA, and as heartbreaking as it is, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you want to see next. I'm thinking about doing an unsolved case, even though I know it's going to give me like nightmares for the next 2 weeks, wondering, like, living through different possibilities of how this case could get solved or stuff like that. I just go through those processes. But you guys should let me know some suggestions of some unsolved cases that were really good, so we can check them out together. See you guys in the next video. If you like the video, please like and subscribe.